Hey there, fellow vegetable nerds. Thank you so much for hanging out with me once again in my kitchen. Tonight I have an extra special episode for you. I have been waiting for days and days and days to do this one, and I'm so excited. So let's just jump right into it. Let's start meat and veg.
Hey, turn up the caramello and chisel on the shizney. It's time for me to what? Let me introduce myself. I'm Gino Burrito. My pants are made of leather. I find it hard to concentrate.
So before the pandemic hit, I got a chance to go with a friend to this giant Indian supermarket. I love going to stores like this. I love learning about different foods from places all around the world and how other people eat. There's always so much more than I could have imagined even existed, and I get really overwhelmed by it because I just want to try all the things. And it's hard to do because you don't know what all the things are. You don't know what things you're gonna like. I tried to get a couple of things that I had a feeling that I would enjoy, some like garlic-based things or chili-based things, and then I tried to grab a few things sort of at random and was like, well, I don't know, let's give this a shot. And some of them were absolutely hits. Some of them were, okay, and some of them I still don't know what to do with, and I'm working on that, But one thing that I found that I really liked was this stuff here, which is a low glycemic Basmati rice. And that has opened up a lot of possibilities for me. And lately, you might remember I did the recipe from the Indian Instant Pot book. I've been making biryani all the time. It's so delicious. I love that recipe so much and it's been so easy. But I ran out of my rice. So I was looking around and I checked out the store that I had originally bought it from, and I thought maybe if they have a website, I can just sort of order it and then go pick it up. They don't even have a website. That was a problem. So I started looking around and I saw what I had paid for it originally, and I thought, well, I'm sure I can get it on Amazon. And I can if I want to pay literally twice as much, which, surprise, I don't. So I went looking around and it turns out there's a store close enough to my home, they will deliver. I got to go online and look at their entire inventory. And because I'm not standing there in the aisle making people have to walk around me, I can take as much time as I want Googling everything and figuring out what I might like to try. And that includes things like, they had all this produce. I can't tell you how excited I was to be looking through all of these different kinds of vegetables that I'd never even heard of and things that I had heard of but I don't know what to do with. And I had the luxury to just sit and Google and come up with recipes and how would I use that. And so instead of just buying a random collection of things, I bought things specifically to make certain recipes for. So this stuff is going to get used, and that's very exciting for me. So I am really looking forward to showing off what I got. I've been doing a little bit of research to learn a little bit more about all of these things. I could easily make an entire episode out of each thing. Maybe I will in the future. I don't know. I'm being introduced to these things. I'm going to introduce you to these things. And then as I get a deeper understanding of them, we'll go into it in more detail at another time. When I go to make the things that I have decided I'm gonna make, we'll do that together. Let me show you what's in these bags of wonder. They brought them to me today. Super easy, no problems. I will put a link to the place. I will say one thing. I'm happy to give them an endorsement because I'm happy with the experience overall. However, there was one thing that bugged me, which was the fact that they sent me a coupon code and they were like, oh, you'll get free delivery if it's over $25. But there was no code. It was just, between this day and this day. And so between that day and that day, I finalized my order. I went to put it through and there's a delivery charge. And I was like, well, I don't like that. So I emailed them. They got right back to me and they said, just kidding. They never acknowledged me in any way. That kind of annoyed me. Then they had another thing that said free shipping over $50, which is like not the same deal. But I had enough stuff for a $50 order, so I was like, all right, if I go to put it through and there's no delivery charge, then I'll just go ahead and do it. And that's what happened. I'm not happy with the fact that they didn't acknowledge my email in any way, and that the deal that they initially offered didn't work. I don't love that. However, I feel like that's heavily overshadowed by the fact that I got a bunch of cool stuff from the Indian food store delivered to my door. And they did a great job of it, and they called me this morning and they said, hey, there's 2 things that we don't have the exact one that you ordered. We do have this one. Are you okay with having that as a replacement? And I liked having the opportunity to do that. They did a great job with the delivery. Everything came in great condition, and I love that they give you the option to tip your driver as well. So, I mean, I really can't complain that much. Ginger garlic paste. So this stuff I keep seeing come up in recipes all the time. Generally, I would prefer to do my own fresh garlic, my own fresh ginger, but you know, sometimes it's just nice to have it already there in your jar and just add it to things. I've been hearing a lot about this. It's really just what it sounds like. This is ginger and garlic. So looking forward to trying that. This is just some cumin seeds. I just ran out. So this right here, hopefully you can see that. This is flavoring called Asafetida. I had only ever seen it, you know, written down. And so my whole life, I thought it was Asafetida. I am wrong. It's Asafetida, which makes sense because right in the middle of that word, that fetid just kind of means stinking. It kind of literally means like stinking, like stinking gum or something like that, because it's a latex. It's like a gum that's extracted from the taproot of a couple of species of this herb that's related to celery. Okay, and the cool thing about this, now, by the way, I'm just gonna call it by its other name just to make life easy for myself. It's also called hing, H-I-N-G. So let's stick with that from here on out, because Asafetida is cool to say once, but after that. Other names for it, by the way, are devil's dung and food of the devils. Why? Because it stinks. It's really not that bad. In all honesty, this is not so bad. I mean, you can smell it through the lid, that's for sure. But the neat thing about it is, although it smells kind of funky, when you cook it, it totally changes, and the flavor is very much like onion or garlic. So this is very often recommended for people who have onion or garlic allergies, or have some reason why they shouldn't have one of those. A lot of people will say, get yourself some hing, and you can add that flavor without, you know, tripping yourself up. Oh, I'm like scared to open this. There is some... What am I not understanding? Okay, so the lid has like this hole in it. I'm like twisting it and nothing happens. And I'm kind of... Oh, okay. So you pry that lid off. Now you get this. And I guess you're supposed to poke that. You know what? I can smell it really well, even through this. So I'm not gonna go stabbing this on camera and do myself a mischief. That smell is quite strong, but I can definitely detect where it's gonna become more oniony, garlicky. That's in there, definitely. I was doing some reading about this, and a lot of times it's used sort of to accent other flavors or to bring all the flavors together. It's apparently a really important component of Indian cooking. And I was reading one article where the woman writing it was saying it makes Indian food taste like Indian food. So I was like, okay, well, I will take your word for it. I'm really excited to try that. And I do already have a recipe that calls for it. So I'm interested to see how that's gonna be. I've been wanting to try that forever. You don't want these, Stella. You think you do, but you don't. No, you don't. These are very strong smelling. So these guys here, they're just called long Indian chilies. They didn't have that much information. Well, they have no information. That's another issue that I have with their website. I really love it. I will use it again, but there is no description of anything. If you don't know what it is, sorry, that's okay. You know, I've got Google on the same box that I'm using their website on, so it's not that hard. These guys here, there's no further information given, and I went looking it up, and apparently there's just chilies that are just called Indian chilies, and I can't find any information. Like, I can't find a Latin name for it. I can't find any information on it. So these are the longer versions. The one thing I did find is that there is a shorter one and a longer one, and supposedly the shorter ones are hotter. I don't know what the heat level of this is gonna be. This is a mystery. I kind of, like, am I gonna do this? This could go in any kind of direction. If I die of this, somebody take care of my cat. I mean, if you're gonna bring some heat, you better come on. Nope, that is not a hot pepper. It's a nice flavor though. I could see dicing this up and throwing it in, you know, just for flavor, not really for heat. I could definitely mix that, and especially if you did have some hot pepper, you could mix that up with this, and then you would get more of a spread of flavor and heat, and you can have more of that chili flavor, but with, you know, it would kind of mellow out a little bit of the heat, you know, spread it out. Got some more cinnamon sticks. Because those get expensive, and that was a good deal on those. This here, I had actually ordered these from another company, and when I got my order, I get an email and they're like, we ran out of these, sorry. And I was like, I had so specifically looked forward to these. These are called curd chilies, okay? Curd, C-U-R-D, as in curds and whey. It's not necessarily a specific chili. It's not a specific type of chili. It's a preparation. So what they do is they take these chili peppers, they will soak them in salted buttermilk, and then kind of dry them out for a really long time. So they're sort of salted, marinated, dried, and cured. As you get these little chili peppers, they're dry, and they've got this sort of coating on there. So what you're supposed to do with these is sort of deep fry them so that they get kind of crispy all over, and apparently that happens very fast. So you just kind of get them in and get them out, like 10 seconds so they don't burn. And then they get nice and crispy. And what I was reading that people would do with these is they make something called curd rice, which is like a rice dish that's very like liquidy and sort of creamy, and it's got yogurt in it, and then it's topped with, you know, a bunch of spices that are added at the end, and sometimes you can put some vegetables in there, but it's just a creamy, comforting, sort of yogurty rice dish. And then you put these crispy chilies on top and you kind of mash them up with your spoon and stuff, which sounds really good. It's not generally made with basmati from what I can tell. Also from what I can tell, I don't think there's any, I don't think I'm ruining it if I do use basmati for it. So I have seen some things that said, yeah, you can go ahead and do that. It's not like risotto where it makes a huge difference, or at least not that I'm aware of. I would like to try that at some point. I don't have all the ingredients for that just yet. I did also read, you can do the same thing with these and put them on top of, basically it's really nice to put them on something that's a little bit bland, because it adds a lot to it. Curd rice, actually they had referred to it as like Indian macaroni and cheese. So I think that applies both to sort of the mildness of it, but also sort of how ubiquitous it is, that it's just a really common thing that people eat, and it's sort of a comfort food. You could probably throw this on actual mac and cheese. Not that I eat that, but you know, if you did. Also, I found out that you can just eat them like popcorn. So I am definitely going to try that. I am really, really looking forward to trying the flavor of this. So it's supposed to be like a little bit sour, a little bit salty, a little spicy. I got curry leaves. So these, I was looking up and it got real fascinating, okay? Because there's a lot of confusion with curry, because curry means a lot of things. So first of all, curry is a dish, and it's not just an Indian food, but in Asian, other Asian foods as well. And it's generally just a dish of ingredients and some kind of sauce. That does not narrow it down at all. It's kind of like, what is a salad? Stuff in a bowl. There's curry powder, there's curry leaves, which come from a curry tree or curry bush, but then there's also the curry plant, which isn't related to this, and they just call it that, but it's actually helichrysum. It's actually a helichrysum. And I used to have one of those plants, and I remember when I saw these leaves, I was like, well, that doesn't look anything like the plant that I had, because I didn't have a real curry plant. They just call it a curry plant because it's strong smelling. But that's not used in any kind of curries, but it is used in some Mediterranean cooking, so it all gets very confusing. This stuff here is used in curries. It's not in curry powder. Further confusing. I know, I get it. Generally, curry powder is going to be a combination of spices. Mostly, there's a few core spices that are going to be in that, but then there's also a million versions of curry powder, so there's going to be some variation. But curry powder in general, from what I was reading, is not really an Indian invention. It's a British invention. They were trying to simplify things for themselves, which makes a lot of sense. You know, if you're not of Indian descent, you didn't grow up eating Indian food, you don't have a pantry full of Indian spices, and you would like to make Indian food, it sure does seem easier to have all of your spices in one mix, and then you just 1 tablespoon, you know, or however much, and you're done, as opposed to having to source each and every one of those things. None of the ingredients in curry powder is curry leaves. But these are a big part of Indian cooking, and I'm really excited to try these, and I kind of want to see what these smell like. These are also sometimes called sweet neem, which is further confusing because they're not in any way related to neem. They smell so weird. I was wondering what it was. So in between getting this delivery and doing this video, I had to stick these in Brian's little mini fridge that he's got in his office. And the whole thing smells like one of these things, and I couldn't tell which one it was. It's this. This is strong, like really strong. That is a very difficult to describe smell. It doesn't smell like curry powder. No, it does not. I don't believe these are eaten raw. I'm not 100% certain, but I know that you definitely cook with them. So I have plans for these. I have a recipe I'm gonna make. I got some pearl onions. I didn't have a specific need for these, but I have discovered that I really, really like pearl onions. These are little teeny tiny baby onions. These, actually baby onions are another name for them. They're also called sometimes button onions, silver skin onions, or creamers, which is probably not a name I'll use. I don't want to use the name baby onions because baby, while it can refer to size, we tend to think of that in terms of maturity as well. These are not just immature onions. These are just a whole separate thing. They're definitely related to onions, but they're like, if you leave these on the ground, they're not going to become big onions. Now, why would you want these guys instead of a big onion? Well, I will tell you. A couple of reasons. I tried these out when Imperfect had them. I have found these so useful for so many things. They are sweeter, kind of compact, so if you only want a little bit of onion for something, you can just use a couple of those and not have like a whole bunch of onions sitting in your fridge now. You can do really cool things with them, like they're great for roasting. They get so sweet and just, oh my gosh. They don't have the sharpness of a regular onion. They're great for pickling. They're good in like a martini or something like that. I'm not really a martini fan, but I do like a Bloody Mary. They attract cats. All right, well, I guess this is how it's going from here on out. I found recipes for creamed pearl onions, which I guess is why you call them creamers, and it actually sounded really nice. I saw a suggestion that if you're making something like a shish kebab or something on a skewer, you can just skewer them. And I know from experience, if you're cutting up onions and skewering them, like sometimes they kind of fall off and blah, you know, not always that easy to do. Whereas these guys, just right through, eat it in one bite and you're good. Pearl onions are super yummy. I have fallen in love with them. So if you get an opportunity to try them out, trust me, I recommend. Okay, so look at these tiny little guys. One of the things that happens when you order things on the internet is that you don't always get a real good idea of scale. So I thought these were going to be much bigger, but they're just tiny, tiny little dudes. Look, it's like a cross between a cucumber and a little bean. So these are ivy gourds. They have a million different names depending on what language they're in. The alternate name that they gave on the website is Tindora, and I found a lot more recipes for these searching for Tindora than I did for ivy gourd. They don't smell like anything. Apparently, if you eat them raw, they're kind of like a mild cucumber, but these are generally gonna be cooked. They're gonna be like sauteed or deep fried, and those are used both in Indian food, or there's a type of a Thai soup that uses them as well. So I'm really looking forward to trying them. I found a cool recipe for them. I am so excited to try that out. That's gonna be an upcoming episode. I kind of want to cut into one and taste it, but I'm a little hindered at this point, and she's been kind of acting up tonight, so I feel like this is like the lesser of two evils. I can either hold her until she's done with that, or I can let her be over there yelling and throwing things and trying to break stuff. You know what she did? The dedication to just being a total ass bag. She has started doing this thing where she goes to my bookshelf and she just figured out the book that I would least like for her to destroy, and she started sharpening her claws on it. And now she goes to it every time that she wants to get my attention. That's like her new thing, because she knows that I will stop her from doing that. So she's like, oh, that's how I get attention. You evil, manipulative, awful cat. So these right here, also very strong smelling. This is fenugreek. I worked in health food stores for a really long time, and I grew up sort of with herbalists, and so I'm used to fenugreek being something that you get as a tea or in pills, but this is also food. You wouldn't generally eat this raw because apparently it's very, very bitter. Although I did find one recipe for a fenugreek leaf salad. The comments were full of people just being like, wait a minute, what do you mean it's raw? You don't cook it for real? So apparently it's really uncommon to eat this raw. But when you cook it, very bitter sort of flavor really mellows out. It does have such an interesting smell. There's a compound, a chemical compound in fenugreek salt called sotalon. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but it looks like an easy enough word. I probably got it. The compound makes it smell kind of like maple syrup, which is really like, I don't smell it just from the leaves. Not quite, but apparently in areas where they have plants that are sort of processing fenugreek for, you know, for packaging and that sort of thing, apparently the whole area around it just smells like maple syrup. Now it's much more noticeable in fenugreek seeds. That definitely has sort of a mapley syrupy kind of flavor. Fenugreek seeds are really cool looking. This weird big shape. I really wish I could show you a little better than that. When you cook with it, supposedly it mellows out and it becomes kind of like a burnt sugar sort of flavor, and it gives your food like this depth and sweetness, which is really interesting. Now powdered fenugreek seed is in a lot of Indian spice mixes, including curry powder. Curry powder is going to have fenugreek seed in it. So if you've ever had anything with curry powder, you have already had fenugreek seed. What I've never had is the fenugreek leaves. There's one specific that I'm thinking of where it's combined with potatoes, and the two flavors are supposed to mix sort of perfectly, because even when you cook, apparently there's still some sort of bitterness to the leaves, but when you mix it with potatoes, it's supposed to just balance it out really well. So that is something I'm gonna be making, because I still have those Huckleberry Gold potatoes, so I'm gonna try that out. I won't try it without you though. Look at these tiny, beautiful little eggplants. And these will often also be called brinjal, which again, I hope I'm pronouncing that properly. Look how cute, they're so adorable. Now these are also sometimes called baby eggplants, but again, just like with the baby onions, if you let those grow and continue to grow, they're never going to become those great big eggplants that you find in a lot of Italian and Mediterranean cooking. You're just gonna have overripe little baby guys. So that's just the size that they're supposed to be, which I kind of prefer. Number one, these are a little bit sweeter than those great big guys, but also when you have the little ones, even if you cut them up, each piece has a piece of skin to hang on to, so it maintains its integrity a little bit more. Whereas with the great big guys, you've got all of that flesh on the inside. So unless you're doing something like baba ganoush or something like that, which is like, I love baba ganoush so much. Unless you're doing something like that, you do run the risk of having just sort of a bunch of mush if you don't, do it properly. So generally my favorite eggplants tend to be either little guys like that or like the long thin ones used in East Asian cooking, like Japanese eggplants and things like that. They're all good though. I do love eggplants. I am going to have an episode coming up where I just talk about eggplants because I feel like they don't get the love they deserve. And I think it's just a lack of comfort and a lack of experience working with it. And I think a lot of people think they don't like it because it's easy to get it wrong, but it's not hard to get it right either. So I think that if you had maybe one bad experience with eggplant, I think it wouldn't be too hard to replace that experience with a better one and then come away with a different feeling about it. So I do want to get to that at some point in the future. So I think that is everything in the bag. I have a couple of really fun plans with these things. I will absolutely report back and let you know how things are. If you have used any of these and you have anything you want me to know about them or any suggestions or anything, I'm absolutely open to hearing it. So please drop me a line. You know, I've got my email address in the description. You know, if you like this video, please remember like and share and subscribe and do the whole deal. Stella really appreciates it, and so do I. I really appreciate you hanging out with me again in my kitchen, letting me nerd out about all of my fun stuff that I got at the store, and for putting up with this nonsense. I will see you next Thursday. Bye.
Hey, turn up the caramello and shizzle on the shizney. It's time for me to what? Let me introduce myself. I'm Gina Burrito. My pants are made of leather. I find it hard to concentrate.